Some people will tell you quietly that they don't really feel much anymore. Not sad, not happy, just flat. Good news lands like a fact. Bad news lands like a fact. Like watching their own life through a pane of glass. Everyone assumes this is emptiness, that something inside them is broken or missing or switched off for good. It isn't. The people who feel nothing are not feeling nothing. They are feeling too much for too long, with nowhere to put it, and their mind did something quietly brilliant to keep them standing. It didn't delete the feelings. It pulled a breaker. And a breaker that's been tripped can be reset, but only once you understand why it blew. So what actually happens when a person goes numb? Where do those feelings go? Because feelings don't just vanish. And why does the shutdown happen to some people and not others who went through the same thing? Start with the biggest misunderstanding. We treat numbness like an empty tank, like the feelings ran out. But numbness isn't the tank being empty. It's a valve being held shut, hard, all the time. That takes energy, constant, exhausting energy, which is why people who feel nothing so often also feel tired for no reason they can name. They are not doing nothing. They're holding a door closed against everything. It's the most tiring thing a person can do, and it never shows. They look like they're coasting. They're actually holding back an ocean with their bare hands every hour they're awake. The flatness isn't the absence of a storm. It's the sound of a storm being held on the other side of a wall. So why would a mind build that wall? Because at some point, feeling things got a person hurt. Maybe grief that had no bottom. Maybe a home where emotions were dangerous, where crying got punished, or where there was simply too much pain to survive at full volume. The mind is practical, ruthlessly practical. If feeling everything is going to break you, it turns the volume down on all of it. Not just the bad, it can't be selective. So the joy goes quiet at the same time as the pain. That's the cruel trade at the center of numbness. You can't dim the fear without dimming the wonder. The same wall that keeps out the flood keeps out the sunlight. From the outside, this rarely looks like suffering. That's what makes it so lonely. The numb person still laughs at the joke, a beat late, and from somewhere behind the eyes. They still say, "I'm good," and mean it as a fact, not a feeling. They go to the party and watch it happen like footage of a life that's technically theirs. They hear that someone close to them is hurting, and they wait to feel it, and the feeling doesn't come. Then they feel guilty about that. The guilt, at least, gets through. Food tastes like texture. Music that used to move them just plays. They keep old photos to remind themselves they were once a person who felt things. And the worst part isn't the pain. There is no pain. The worst part is missing the pain, because pain, at least, would prove there's still someone in there. That's the quiet horror at the center of numbness. It's not that you're sad, it's that you'd give almost anything to be. Here's what makes it so hard to escape. The numbness protects you from pain, but it also protects you from the very feelings that would tell you you're healing. You can't feel relief. You can't feel connection. So there's no signal that says, "It's safe now, you can open the door." The wall stays up because nothing on the inside is allowed to feel safe enough to lower it. And the world rewards it in a bleak way. The numb person looks calm, steady, unshakable. People lean on them precisely because nothing seems to touch them. Nobody checks on the person who never seems to need it. So the mask gets reinforced from the outside too. So here's the reframe. Feeling nothing was never brokenness. It was the most protective thing a mind can do when feeling everything became unsurvivable. It's not a malfunction. It's a smoke alarm that worked so well it's still going off in a house where the fire went out years ago. The person who feels nothing isn't cold. They are, underneath, someone who once felt so much they had to build a wall to keep breathing. The wall is proof of how deeply they can feel, not evidence that they can't. Think about it. You don't build a wall that big against a feeling that was small. The size of the defense tells you the size of what it was holding back. Nobody goes numb over nothing. So, if you're the one behind the glass, the one who watches their own life instead of living inside it, understand what you're actually looking at. Not an empty room, a locked one. You don't get feeling back by forcing the flood. You get it back the way the mind lets go of any defense, slowly, in a place that finally feels safe enough that the wall isn't needed. A single small feeling allowed all the way through, without punishment. Then another. Don't start with grief. That's too much voltage for a circuit that's been off for years. Start with something small enough to survive. The warmth of a mug in your hands. A song that once meant something. The specific ache at the end of a film. Let it be there for 10 seconds without explaining it away. That's not nothing. That's the switch being tested. And notice who you're around when a flicker gets through. It's almost never in the crowd you perform for. It's with the one person who doesn't need you to be okay. Numbness lowers where it's safe and only there. So the work was never forcing the feeling. It's finding the room and the person where feeling stops being dangerous. The breaker didn't destroy the power. It cut it to save the house. And the house is still standing. That was the whole point. And here's the part worth being patient for. When the feeling does come back, it rarely returns as a trickle. The first real thing you feel after years behind the glass can floor you. A song in the car, and suddenly you're crying, and you don't fully know why. That's not a breakdown. That's the power coming back on in a house that sat dark for a long time. Let the lights flicker. Let them be too bright at first. It only means the wiring still works. People who feel nothing aren't missing something. They're holding something, a door, a valve, a wall that once kept them alive. The flatness isn't the end of feeling. It's feeling, waiting on the other side of a door that's allowed to open again. For more videos like this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.